And yes, this next one really had me scratching my head, literally. But once I kind of, no, once I looked at the multiple choice questions, the multiple choice answers, I should say. Once I looked at that, I kind of knew exactly where I needed to go. But let me go ahead and read this question for you. It says, find three consecutive numbers like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Find three consecutive numbers such that three times the first is equal to eight more than the sum of the other two. Yeah. Yeah. Find three consecutive numbers such that three times the first is equal to eight more than the sum of the other two. So I just went ahead and looked at the answers and said, okay, the choices they gave me were 8, 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 13, 12, 13, 14. So, yes, 8, 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 13, 12, 13, 14. So yeah, I just kind of said, okay, the first number, is times 3, and it has to be 8 more than the other two just added together, you know. So if it was 8, 9, 10, as you can see at the bottom, it has 8 times 3 versus the 9 plus 10. So yes. And then I got the difference of only 5 with 8, 9, 10. Then I kept going, and eventually I made my way up to the answer. But that's what I had to do. I had to go and look at my choices of answers. I couldn't just pull three consecutive numbers out of my head without actually going through saying, okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 3, 4, 5. And it would have took a while to get to my numbers, but yeah, let's go ahead and get to the answer. Yes, which is C, 11, 12, 13. Now, like I said, I plugged all these numbers in. 8 times 3 is 24, but 9 and 10 is 19, so that was a difference of 5. 9 times 3 is 27, then 10 plus 11 is 21, that's a difference of 6. I'm looking for something that's 8 more, right? So 11 times 3 is 33, 12 and 13 are 25. That is your 8 number difference. 12 times 3 is 36, plus 13 and 14 is 27. So that's a 9-point difference. So we found our 11, 12, and 13 is the three, well, 11, 12, and 13 are the three consecutive numbers in this particular sequence. And yes, these may be getting more difficult, but if you just calm down, take you a couple of deep breaths before you even get started, you'll be okay. I promise. Take you a couple of deep breaths and let my voice stay with you when you're taking your algebra test, when you're doing your algebra homework, when you're in the class with the teacher. Let my voice be your voice, and let your voice be my voice. You can change my voice to your voice, but you'll have to talk to yourself just like I'm talking to you. Tell yourself, I remember this. I know this. Mr. Marquis said this. I remember he had this question. It says, the ratio of the height of two buildings is 7-5. The first building is 210 feet tall. How tall is the second building? So looking at ratios, you'll say, okay, if 7-5 is the ratio and 210 is the first building, Let's just say that that is the tallest building with the 7. 7 being the tallest of 5, right? 7, for every 7 feet in one building, the other building has 5 feet. So it has 7 feet, 5 feet. At 14 feet, it has 10 feet. At 21 feet, it has 15 feet. So that is the ratio, 7 to 5. The first building has 210 feet. How tall is the second building? It's like you have to know the formula to be able to do that. And all that is saying 5 over 7 equals x over 210. Now, you wouldn't necessarily know that, but this is how you figure out what x is. Or you can say the other way. You can do the 7 over the 5 and the 210 over the x. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the 7x, it'll be 7x equals 210 times 5. And 210 times 5 is 1050. So 1050 it will get divided by 7. 1050 divided by 7 is your x. Yes, and I went ahead and wrote that out for you at the very bottom of this page, at the very bottom of this slide, I should say. As you can see, 5 to 7 is equal to x to 210. A 5 to 7 ratio is equal to an x to 210. What to 210? So I went ahead and said, okay, if I cross multiply means to take the top of the left side and multiply it by the bottom of the right side. 210 times 5. And then you will multiply the bottom of the left times the top of the right, which would give us a 7x. You know what I'm saying? It will give us a 7x. So I have that 210 times 5, and since we have 7x, we'll have to divide by that 7. 1050 divided by 7 will leave us with 150. So the second building is 150 feet tall. Okay, it says factor the polynomial 5x minus 15. Factor. Do you remember what factor means? If not, you'll have to go back into your algebra glossary. I'll give you a minute to do that. Now, for those of you who know what that means, you know that to factor means to pull out the greatest common number and variable. If the variable is in there, you pull the factor out. The factor of a number is a number that divides that number. Exactly. For example, the factor of 5 would be 5 and 1. You know what I'm saying? So, me factoring out 5x minus 15, a 5 will go into 15, right? How many times? 3, right? A 5 will go into 5x. How many times? Just one of those 5. So that would only leave us 1x. But you would have to factor it out of, if I were to factor an x out, there has to be an x with the 15 as well. So in 5x minus 15, I could only factor 5 out of both terms. And when I factor out that 5, it leaves me with 5 parentheses x minus 3. So that's basically saying that to get it back to the polynomial, just put the 5 back where it belongs, and it should say 5x minus 15 all over again. If you go ahead and distribute it into the polynomial, it becomes 5x minus 15 again. So to factor it means you're dividing it out, right? You're factoring, you're dividing, you're taking out the biggest number you can, which is the greatest common factor. Yep. And with that said, we're just going to keep practicing on as much of this algebra stuff as we can. We'll start with this greatest common factor. You can go ahead and write down 5x squared plus 15x. And as you can see, I was able to factor a 5x out of that polynomial, which only leaves me with an x plus 3 inside the parentheses because I was able to factor out the 5 and the x. And these down below that are just a few more examples of some of the problems that we've had. Instead of factoring, we'll be distributing. So 2y times parentheses y minus 4. What is that? If you can, write your answer in the comments. Gonna write it after I write it. But my answer would be 2y squared minus 8y. 2y squared minus 8y. 2y times y is 2y squared. 2y times negative 4 is minus 8y. 2y squared minus 8y. Okay, we take the next one. It says x parentheses 4x plus 3y close parentheses. So that is x times 4x plus 3y. So to go ahead and distribute that x into the problem, it becomes 4x squared plus 3xy. And x times a 4x makes it a 4x squared. And then a x times a 3y just makes it a 3xy or 3yx. Most of the time we're writing the letters in alphabetical order, x, y, z. ZYX is the exact same thing. You can write ZYX, it's the same. The numbers will be the same. They will be multiplied, and you multiplying, it doesn't matter the order when you're multiplying. Okay, so that's it. 4x squared plus 3xy. Same thing with the next one. I have an x minus 4 in parentheses. Outside of the parentheses is a y. So I have xy minus 4y. xy minus 4y. This is you just factoring in reverse. You know what I'm saying? To factor it out, it'll get back to x minus 4 on the outside with a y on the inside or the outside. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I have in parentheses x minus 4 y. Once I distribute that y, it becomes xy minus 4y. Now, the next one, we're going to have to FOIL again. You remember, FOIL is the 2 at the front is what you're going to multiply. You're going to multiply the 2 at the front, and that'll give you a negative 1x. And then we'll do the 2 on the outside, which is an x times a negative x. And positive x times a negative x. Okay, so if I were to say x times x, that is what? X squared. And since one of them has a minus in front of it, we'll say minus x squared. And then we have a positive 1x next. Okay, you have the first, which is a 1x. Outside, negative x squared. Both of these insides is minus 1 times 1, which is a minus 1. And then the last, minus 1 and a minus x. So that's a plus. That's a plus x. I have 1x plus x. So my final answer for the bottom is minus x squared minus 2x minus 1. Final answer. Okay, we'll lighten up a little bit. Okay, we'll get back to some regular algebra. This is that regular stuff. Not to say that it's easy. It's not simple. That's not what we're saying at all. We're just here to give a little bit of love. Here to show some love. It's kind of late where I am, but hey, I'm excited. I'm excited about this. I'm excited for you, and I appreciate you for just being here. This next question is, if x equals negative 8, what is the value of 2x minus 8x minus 13? And all you would do is just plug in your values for x, which is negative 8. So I have 2 times a negative 8 minus 8 times a negative 8 minus 13. So the very first one is 2 times a negative 8, which is 16. Minus 8 minus 8. Minus 8 times a negative 8 is a positive 64. And then minus that 13. So I have a positive 64 minus your 16 minus 13, which will give me 35. And you just have to take your time with stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Make sure your negatives are your negatives and positives stay positive. Watch your signs. That's like the easiest way for you to lose track or get messed up, get lost in the sauce, as they say. Yeah. And I would love to talk about exponents a little bit more. Exponents probably gave me my most trouble when I was in school. I don't know. I may have just not been really paying attention, but it was like, man, exponents. I always needed extra work on exponents. This is probably some stuff that they won't be teaching you for a while. This may even get into some of the geometry and algebra too, but these are exponents that you may see right here in algebra 1. So the first ones are very easy. 2 to the third power. It's just like saying 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the third power is 8. But 3 to the second power, 3 to the 2 is 3 times 3, which is 9. 3 to the third is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And you can just keep doing that with any number. Just whatever that bottom number is, make sure you multiply that however many times the top number is. If you have 2 to the third, multiply 2 times 2 times 2 3 times, right? Okay, now this is where it kind of gets a little tricky, like the cubed root. 3 radical, the third root, the cubed root of 8, we already know is 2 because 2 to the third power is the 8. But it can also be written as 8 to the 1/3 power. You know what I'm saying? The 1/3 power is just like saying the cubed root. That's still going to be 2. The square root of 9 can be written as 9 to the 1/2 power. Same thing. That's where it gets a little confusing. Another one that was confusing to me was the negative exponent. 2 to the negative 3 is just like saying 1 over 2 to the negative 3. It makes the entire number a denominator. It goes at the bottom of the fraction. So 2 to the negative third power would be like saying 1 over 2 to the third power, or 1 over 8. 3 to the negative second power. It's like saying 1 over 3 to the second power, or 3 squared. 1 over 3 squared is 1 over 9. 3 squared is 9. 1 over 3 squared is 1 over 9. 3 to the negative squared. 2 to the negative 3. Man, y'all learning a lot in this first tutorial, man. This is an algebra tutorial, pretty much a crash course in algebra. Like, you're not gonna get all the big numbers and stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna let the teacher deal with that part of it. Not that I don't know how to do it. It's just that a lot of this has been very time consuming. Yeah, but no worries.